Hi everyone. This video is going to be on chapter P review, looking over at the answers. So I uploaded the answers onto an announcement. If you go to all your announcements, you should see the C-Scores video that I uploaded earlier and review answers and exam info. When you click on that, I give you information on the exam. You're allowed an 8.5 by 11 piece of paper with handwritten notes. You may write on the front and the back. No worked out problems are allowed. You do need a Scantron. The exam is 2 portions. First, you'll get the multiple choice, which is where you'll need the Scantron, number 8A2E, and then the free response, which will be, you can write on that one. And then the answers. So I have chapter P review answer key and exam 1 review answer key, which has chapter 1, I believe. And you can also find it in the modules. So when you go to modules, then when you scroll at the bottom of chapter 1, you will be able to see you have your exam 1 review and chapter P answer key and chapter 1 answer key. So I'm going to focus on chapter P because that's the one that involves StatCrunch, and we may have forgotten a little bit about StatCrunch since we haven't been using it for chapter 1. So we're going to go to the example number 2, which is the MLB baseball salaries, and some of the things that it asks you is to find the shape, and this is the key, so it has the answers. Center, 5 measures of center, variability, and the 5-number summary in IQR. So your 5-number summary is the minimum, first quartile, median, third quartile, the maximum, and then it asks you also for the IQR inner quartile range. So when you go to StatCrunch, so let's go to StatCrunch and make sure that you log in. So I'm already logged in, so it displays my name. If you haven't logged in, it will say log in, register at the top. And if you haven't logged in, you won't be able to use some of the features here. Things will be grayed out, so you can't use it until you log on. So go to groups and go to my groups. And there you should find our ARC Stat 300, our Owens group. If you haven't joined it, you should join it. You'll need it for the exam. And we're looking for MLB baseball salaries 2015. So it's right here, so click on that. And as it loads, we have all our data. So looking at this, there are 4 columns. It tells us the player name, the salary, team that they play on, and the position that they play. So let's go back to the review. So it's asking us to find the shape. Use StatCrunch to determine the shape of this data set. Describe how you made your decision. Include what graph or graphs you consulted. So it's skewed right, and I didn't specify which graph, but our main 3 are, and to graph, we go to the graph menu. So you go to graph. The main 3 that we discussed in class are histogram, dot plot, and box plot. And you can use either or all 3. So let's go to the histogram. And we do want to graph salary, so select the column salary. You should have something in the white space here. If nothing is selected, it's going to give you an error. And everything else is leave and compute. So based on this histogram, I can see that it's skewed right. Skewed right is because the data has a right tail, so it goes off to the right. Or another way you can think of it is it has outliers to the right. And a third way you can think of it is if you select to mark your mean and the median, then you will see that if the mean is to the right of the median, then your data is skewed right. Your graph is skewed right. So that's one graph. Let's look at the dot plot. Again, select the column that you want, salary. Salary is the only quantitative variable in all this 4, so only that one will show up. I can't find median, mean, and IQR, standard deviation, any of that on a categorical variable, so it has to be quantitative. And compute, and here's our dot plot. And you can also see that it's definitely skewed right. It has a right tail. And lastly, let's look at the box plot. So I go to graph, box plot, select the column again, salary, and with the box plot, the thing to remember is that we have to check drop boxes horizontally so that our axis, our salary, is on the horizontal. If I don't click that, let me just show you what happens. Compute, so it draws the salaries on the vertical, but all the other graphs, right, or dot plot has salary on the horizontal. The histogram has salary on the horizontal. So we want to make sure that our graphs look the same. Well, don't look the same, but have the same format. So I'm going to go drop boxes horizontally so that then the salary is going to show on the horizontal as well as the other ones. And we can see here that it is definitely skewed right. We have lots of outliers. And so that's what's making our data skewed. So those are the three different graphs that you can use to find the shape. Sometimes one is better than the other, and for this particular example, all three are pretty good. So like when we looked at the histogram first, is very nice, and we can clearly see that it has a right tail, which means it's skewed right. Same with the dot plot. And then here we have lots of outliers to the right. So these are all three showing skewed right. If one, sometimes the histogram is not a very good graph, so then you might want to use the dot plot. And with the box plot, notice that if you hover over a line, it gives you the 5-number summary that one of the questions asked for. So let's go back to our questions. So the shape skewed right, and if I asked you this on the exam, I will say skewed right. I used based on a histogram, or based on a dot plot, or based on a box plot, whichever one you use. And describe the shape of the distribution using the context of the problem. So these are baseball salaries. So the context of the problem will be, in context, skewed right means that there were a few Major League Baseball players that made an extremely large salary, but they were not fairly unusual, because there are many who made about that. Center, find 3 different ways to measure the center of the distribution. So 3 measures of center are the mean, median, and mode. So when we go to StatCrunch, let me close out my graphs. Notice every time I close something, it goes over here and it shows me I have 3 results hidden. So let's go to remind ourselves how we find summary stats. So we go to stats, summary stats. And this is going to give us a way to compute all those things. So salary again, because that's the only quantitative variable. And I wanted to find 3 measures of center. So the mean, the median, so control, click, and on the white box over here on the right, you should start seeing the things that you're selecting. So I'm finding the mean, the median, and the mode is way at the bottom. So control and click. If you're on a Mac, then it's command and compute. And there they are. So the salary, the average, the mean is $4.2 million. The median is 1.65, and the mode is 0.5. So $500,000 is the salary that happens the most. The median is $1.65 million, so that's the middle value, and the mean. So you can see here why this is skewed right. The median is only, well, not only, is $1.65 million versus the mean is 4.2 million. But remember, the median is what gives us 50% of the data up to that point, right? Before 1.65 million, you have 50% of the data. So let's look at a graph.